All right, exercise 3I. Percentage increase, decrease. There is the traditional method, which is method 1. But the one I'm interested in teaching you is the one with the square box or rectangular box that I've drawn on the bottom. So I'm going to show you again what is the traditional method. And I'm going to show you a quicker way-ish. Whether you do it in one shot or with a calculator, doesn't matter. As long as you know how to do it, that's the key. Yeah. Let's have a look at the first example. Example 1. Let's make it a bit easier to understand. Let's say you're working at Macca's at the moment. You're earning, say, $40 per hour, which is pretty awesome, right? And the manager likes you. So the manager said, you know what? You've been working really well. I'm going to increase your pay per hour by 30%. Now, for the general population, when you say increase your pay by 30%, not many people understand what that actually equates to. If you said, oh, you get an extra $5 per hour, then people can figure that out. But if you said an extra 30%, people don't really understand what that is. That means they have to actually work out, well, what is 30% of 40, right? So this is what you would do. You would say, well, I actually don't know how much this increase is. What is 30%? So you need to then figure out, well, what is 30% of your current pay? You're getting paid $40 per hour. So 30% of 40, let's do the traditional method. So here we go. Copying it down to help you remember what you've been practicing the last few sessions. 30% means what? 30 over, what's that percent mean again? 100. Just means for every 100, because that's what percent literally means. Per means every, cent is like century, so for every 100. So you're saying that for every 30, it's out of 100. Next one, 40. 40 is a number, but we can write that as a fraction as 40 over 1. Very good. Every whole number you can write as over 1. So 40 over 1 is a fraction. Now we just need to figure out, what does the word of mean? So when you say 30% of is either add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Which one is it again? Multiply. Very good. So for those who don't know, make sure to write this down as part of your notes. It is times. Up until this step, you've now converted something that is a language, 30% of 40, into a mathematical process that you have practiced. We'll practice for exercise 3B. Okay, so exercise 3B was like week 2 of this term, which you were on camp. And then you came back in week 3 and you started 3B then. So here, let's practice. When you're multiplying fractions, usually we just do top with top, bottom with bottom, but then the numbers get really big because you have to do 30 times 40 and 100 times 1. Numbers are too big. So the goal is to make it smaller first. Which two numbers can you see, a top number and a bottom number, that you can see that you can simplify? Yes, Sully? Very good. So you can see, you just pick any top number and any bottom number that has a common factor. Now this comes back to your times tables, but if you're not good with it, you can use a calculator. You can keep dividing until you get whole numbers and no remainders. So here, what number goes into 40 and 100? Now Sully already just said you can divide by 10 because they both have zeros. 0 is a hint that you can divide by 10. Or if you're more savvy, you can also see that it's multiples of 2. So 20 and 20 can both fit into 140. Now let's figure it out. How many 20s fit into 40? So if you count in 20s, 2. So it goes 20, 40. So that takes 2 lots of 20. So this now becomes 2 because it takes 2 lots of 20 to make 40. How many lots of 20 to make 100? 5. So now you've changed your fraction to 30 over 5 times 2 over 1, which is much easier than what you're looking at here. Then same thing again. I still see another 2 numbers that I can simplify. Which can you see? Let's go with Lucas. 30 and 5. What number can be divided into both 30 and 5? Yes, Ashwin? 5. Very good. And the hint is that 5 there. 5, multiples of 5 always switches between 5 and zeros. Like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Notice it's always 0 and a 5. They switch. So as soon as you see a 0 and a 5, you should be thinking multiples of 5. So here we go. How many 5s fit into either of those numbers? How many lots of 5 make up 30? 6. And how many lots of 5 make 5? 1. So this now becomes 6 1. So you have 6 over 1 times 2 over 1, which is much easier. Now you can multiply the fractions. Instead of doing 30 times 40 and 100 times 1, it's much easier to do 6 over 1 times 2 over 1. That skill there is exercise 3B. Okay, so if you're finding that a bit tricky, that's where I want you to practice. Practice your times tables and your factors. Otherwise, you can use a calculator and just do 30 times 40 and 100 times 1. It still works, but it means that you're reliant on a calculator and not your times tables. Yeah? So this next bit, now we can multiply fractions, top with top, bottom with bottom. 6 times 2, 12 over 1 times 1, 1. But that really just means 12 divide 1, and we know that 12 divided by 1 is just 12. That's right. So what they've actually just calculated now is that if you were getting paid $40 per hour at Macca's and your boss or manager says, I'm going to increase it by 30%, what they're really saying is they're going to increase your pay by $12. Okay? The reason why we don't always just calculate the number is because if your boss is increasing everyone by 30%, everyone has a different pay. So each person you have to calculate differently. So they'll have to say $12 for you, 15 for you, 7 for you. It's two variables, so it's easier just to say 30% all of you. Okay, so that way everyone understands their portion will increase by 30%. Yeah? So $12, but really, how much then would you actually get paid per hour? Doesn't make sense to get paid $12 per hour. 52. Now, how do we get 52? Very good. You take that amount, take the $12, remember it was $40, and you increase it by 30%. Now, we just worked out 30% is equal to $12. So that means 40 plus an extra $12. That's how we know it's $52 now per hour. All right? In this exercise, there are 2 steps to do this. Now, I can already see a lot of students getting locked out in this first step because if you can't figure out the $12, then you can't add on to the $40. So there's 2 steps there. So that's why I'm going to show you a second method where you can do it in one go and you can type it in a calculator. So even if you didn't understand everything I said here, you all can punch numbers on a calculator, which is what they teach out there. So when you get out as a cashier or an accountant or you're doing your percentages, likely they're not teaching these people this. They're going to teach them what I'm going to show you next. Yeah? So this is what they teach you. Here's method 2. That if you go out and you're working in a retail shop and they want you to work out discounts because people come and they say, hey, I saw this is on sale for 20%. You have to know how to punch numbers onto a calculator, right? So this is what they do. They don't teach you the logic to it, but they just tell you the method. I'm going to teach you a bit of logic to it. So here, you started off with $40 per hour, right? So it's that entire block. That is your amount. That's your maximum amount. That means you are currently getting 100% of what you can earn. $40 per hour is your 100%. What your boss now says is they're going to increase it by 30%. So on this side is the dollar side. You don't know how much you're getting paid now because it's gone up by an extra 30. But we do know what the overall amount is. So you start off at 100. So that's $40. And the boss said, I'm going to increase your pay by 30%. So how much overall is the percentage? How much overall is your percentage? Think about what I just said. So you start off with 100. Boss is increasing by 30%. So what's the overall percentage that you're really getting? 130. 130. Is that what you're going to say, Colleen? All right. So together, this is 130%. Together, right? So you don't have to work it out separately. You can look at it as one whole picture. It's 130% of what you're actually getting paid. It's not 100% of what you're getting. It's 100% of what you're getting is exactly what it is. That's $40. You're getting an extra 30%. So you're really looking for what's 130% of 40?
Which is just 40 plus 12.
Exactly. But you do it. The difference is people can understand this. So when you teach people, instead of telling them work out the 12 and then add on to the original, so if you're teaching a staff member, you're saying it's increased by 30%. So you add 30%. So on the calculator, this is what they do. You're trying to work out 130% of 40. This is what they enter. Let's work it out. 130% means 130 over 100. True. Of means times 40. So when they teach their staff members, they say, well, if you're doing an extra 30%, it's 100 plus the 30. Yeah, so that becomes 130. But how do they punch in the calculator? They literally type what you see here. What's that symbol mean here? Divide. This is what they're typing. They're typing 130. This symbol here actually means divide 100, and that is their times 40. It's just 3 buttons or 3 things to add in. 130 divide 100 times 40, which is the amount they start off with. So if you had a $40 t-shirt and the price had gone up by 30%, this is all they're doing. They're just doing 130 divide 100 times 40. So watch. I'm going to do it on the calculator. 130 divided by 100 times 40, and you get the exact same answer as what we calculated before. It's 52. You get in one step $52. But that also means you can do a lot of things. You can do a discount. You see, if they were talking about a discount, it's the reverse. Let's work about a reverse now. What if I told you there was a 20% discount? Or in your case, if it's $40 per hour, but you're slashing off 20% of your pay, right? So let's think about it.
80%.
Very good, because $40 is how much you were getting. That's 100%. If you were coming late to Macca's or to your shift every day, and the boss didn't like you, but they can't fire you for whatever reason, and they're like, you know what? I want to drop your pay because, there's a warning for you. So I'm going to drop your pay by 20%. You're dropping it down by 20% now. So how much is what we don't know how much you're getting paid per hour, but we can work out what the overall percentage is. Just like Will said, if you started off with 100 is what you currently earn, dropping down by 20%, you now only have 80% of what you earn. So if they want to calculate how much their pay is going to be, this is what they'll do. They're just figuring out what is 80% of 40. And on your calculator, this really just means 80 over 100 of means times. So you're really just doing 80 divide 100 times 40, 3 buttons. Oh, wow, that was terrible. Maybe I'll just... There you go. That's what you're saying. You're only finding what 80% is. That's how much you started off with. So 80% of 40, one step, is 80 over 100 times 40. But 80 over 100 just means 80 divided 100. This is what they learn. So when you're doing sort of your, interest rates, you watch what they do on the calculator. Sometimes I watch because I want to know if the person who's working for me or working out the cost for me, are they entering the right numbers? And most times they do. There's only one person I ever saw that they calculated wrong. And what was funny is that I gave them $20. Do you know they gave me back $27? And I asked them, I said, I gave you $20 and I'm getting 27. And the person said, but that's what the calculator says. And I was blown at that point, but I had to kind of teach them in a way. I'm like, well, just think logically. Who cares what the calculator says? I just bought something from you. It doesn't make sense that you're giving me $7 extra. And that person had to rethink what they did. But the point is, the calculator is useless if you're not thinking. And that's the problem, that if I just teach you how to do things, you can follow it. Like the person I dealt with, there's only one in, I don't know how many people I've ever seen. Most people do it right. But these numbers here, you can memorize that. Or you can actually think about what I'm teaching you. You get it, then the calculator is useful. Otherwise, I can give anyone a calculator. This could be a calculator test, and you'd still struggle because it's the theory that people don't understand. And that's what we're trying to teach you. Yeah? So that's the shorter way. But if you wanted to do the traditional method, you could still do the traditional method at this step. But the nice thing is it's just one step. Okay, one fraction you figure out instead of breaking it up into 2 sections. You can do it in 2 sections you like. That's how your textbook teaches you. I like to teach it as more a visual aspect, what's actually happening. You're either increasing the overall percentage or you're decreasing the overall percentage. And it's just one step to get the answer. So let's work out what your pay is if you lost 20% on your pay and you're earning $40 per hour. So it should be 80 divided 100 times 40. $32. So you would get now $32 per hour instead of $40 per hour if there was a 20% discount. Oh, 20% loss. Okay? That is 3I. That's the add subtract. Now, if you flip over the page, there is a formula I'm giving to you. The textbook doesn't give you this one. I'm giving it to you because I find that this is probably where you might hear it in real life that it applies to you, but you don't know how to figure it out and people kind of trial and error and guess kind of thing. But if you flip over, there's a formula here. That formula there, that is useful for a scenario. There's two that I can think of. You know, have you ever had a friend that tells you that they went shopping and they bought something, let's say they bought a TV and they tell you, oh, I paid $150 for it. Okay, so they paid $150 for it and they said, oh, I remember it had like a 25% discount. What they don't tell you is they don't remember how much the original price was. You just know it was a 25% discount, but you don't know what the original price was. So the question is, how do you work it out? If you know your friend went out and bought a $150 TV and he just told you he got it for 25% off. So whilst that sounds great, how much was it originally? That's what we want to know. So how much was the original amount? Now for a lot of students, this is a tricky problem. So I'm giving you a formula to work it out. The original price will equal to the percentage increase or decrease, what I just showed you before. So the overall, think about the picture. The discounted price divided by the percentage, whether it's decrease or increase. So if I were to do this problem, this is what it looks like. Here's the original. We don't know how much the starting point was. That's 100% of itself, just like before. But what they do know is they paid $150 for this TV, but there was a discount of 25%. So how much as a percent overall did they pay for the TV? How much percent overall? So they start off 100 is the original price, drop down by 25%. So how much did they really pay? 75%. Does that make sense? So they start off 100, which we don't know how much that is, but we do know they truly paid only 75% of the amount. So this is 75%. So that means if you want to work out what the original amount is, using my formula, the original amount will equal to how much they paid, it's $150, divided by what they actually paid as a percentage. 75%. Now that looks confusing, but if you type it on a calculator, it's pretty easy. This just means 150 divided by, now what's 75% mean again? Yeah, so write it, I'm going to write it in green so you can see the difference. If you type this on a calculator, it looks scary, but really you're just saying 150 divided 75 divided by 100. That's all it is. So, the only thing you have to be careful of is 75 or 100 is together. So I want you to make sure to put a bracket in between. This is what you type in your calculator. It's 150 divided by whatever 75 divided by 100 is. Okay? Do it that way and it guarantees that you'll definitely get it right. So if you type on your calculator, 150 divide, open bracket, 75 divide 100, that should tell you how much the amount should have been. So let's try it on my calculator. Here we go. 150, I press the divide button, open brackets, 75, divide by 100, that's my 75%. Close the brackets, I'll do it on one line. The original amount was $200, just from that. Now usually for students who don't know that formula, they'll probably do a lot of algebra or a lot of problem solving. I just thought this could help you if you're doing the extended questions. What's another useful time that this could have happened? I remember a time where I went with my mates, there was 3 of us, we went to a restaurant. We got a meal. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you what the original amount was, but in Australia, they always add on GST. Does anyone know how much GST is? Not 15's close. 10%. So 10% on all your goods. So whatever this original amount was,
You gotta add 10%.
you got to add 10%. So that means every time you go buy stuff at a restaurant, you're not paying 100% of the actual amount. You're paying 110% of what the actual amount is. Does that make sense? Yeah. But it's tax to help whatever build the roads and all that for the country. So in a way, you're helping society. So it's one of the things that's stuck since the 1990s. It's been a while. But here, how do we work out what the original amount was? So I remember paying about 320 something amongst us three boys. But what we wanted to know was, okay, so we paid, say, $324. Just make it up. We paid $324, but we know that it includes GST. So we were interested to know, well, how much was it before GST, just to know if that restaurant was actually making a profit or not. That's what we were trying to figure out. So we're trying to figure out the 10% backwards. We're like, oh, how do we do it? So I told them this formula so that they can work it out. And I said, well, you just take the amount you paid, so 324, divide it by, now remember, it's not the 10% because you paid, what's the overall percentage? 110%. So it's 324 divided by 110%. You divide by what you're actually truly paying. That tells you how much the amount was truly. So here we go. Let's type on our calculator. That's 324 divided by 110 over 100. That just means you're typing on your calculator 324 divided by 110 divided by 100. That's all you're doing. So here we go. 324 divided by open brackets 110 divided by 100 close brackets. Whoops. The amount was $294.55. We rounded off. The meal should have been about $294.55. That's the amount, but they obviously got an extra. You can work out the difference and then work out how much they got extra from that 10%. But that's what I like to do, especially when you're paying card or paying cash. Sometimes if you pay by card, it comes with a surcharge, usually 1.2 to 1.5%. You can actually work that out doing what I just taught you, and you can figure out what's the full amount. Is it better to pay cash, or is it not worthwhile? Most times, it's only worthwhile when you buy something really big. If you purchase something like $30,000 for a car, 1.5% is a lot. But if you're only paying for $30 and 1.2% of it, it's not that much. So you can kind of forego it. So most shoppers forego it. But when you do big purchases, each percent does matter. Okay, so I just taught you two things today. I taught you how to do it in one step using a calculator. You can use a traditional method as well. But the other one was a backwards problem solving. You might find that useful someday, I don't know, when you're starting to invest money or something like that. You know the percentage discount or increase, and you know how much you have to pay. You want to work out what the original is. That's a nice formula to know. Okay? We'll stop the video there. This is now 2:26, so you do have about 45 minutes of your own time. You got today's half session, and you got tomorrow's session as your revision before next Wednesday, where I'm assessing chapter 3 skills. So fractions, decimals, percentages. Okay? I will talk more about it tomorrow, but for now, that's going to be your session. Sally?